Yo guys, I told you that I would talk about this bike, and today I'm going to talk about this bike. I'm telling you, this is the coolest bike ever. This is amazing. Let's get started. My name is Rikki Rockett. I am known as the drummer for Poison, but this YouTube channel I focus on urban legends, scary stories, ghost stories, and motorcycle stuff, and once in a while I dabble into cameras, but mainly everything is focused on my legend tripping, so I have a good time with that. Most of the gear that I use is for that, but it crosses over to any kind of travel because there are times where I need to go somewhere and go off-road and stay somewhere, quite honestly. Motorcycle's a motorcycle, and for those that are uninitiated with motorcycles, I can see why you might say that. But motorcycles are very, very different. There are so many different kinds of motorcycles. This is what is classified as an adventure touring motorcycle. It used to be just called an adventure motorcycle. I think it's changed a little bit. Some people are starting to get smaller weight bikes, 790s, 800s in that range, and then classifying the sport touring or adventure touring bikes as bikes that are over 1,000 cc's. So that covers a lot of ground. There's a lot that comes with that. They say that your adventure begins when you leave the garage, not when you leave the back of your pickup truck. Meaning, you pack a bike up, you get on it, you leave your garage, and you go off for a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple years, whatever it is. That is quote unquote the way adventure touring is defined these days. That's what this bike is. So why would I care about this bike for what I do? I don't leave home a whole lot except to go on tour, but I do these urban legends and I get in all kinds of situations. It's going to do everything I need to do my legend tripping. If I need to go off for a couple of days on this bike, I can do it. If I need to go off-road, if I need to camp off of the bike, if I just need to take freeways, I can do that. If I need to take back roads, it handles really well. It has a really decent turning radius for a bike of its size. A lot of times I've taken my Indian Roadmaster, but it is an on-road bike strictly. And there's been a couple of situations where I wish I had some off-road capability. So that's what this bike will fill that void for being my urban legend motorcycle. This bike is more popular in Europe at this moment, and I think what happened was a lot of Americans saw this bike when it was the 1200, and it was a more difficult bike to maneuver off-road, and brands like KTM and BMW just seemed to edge it out off-road. That's not true anymore. With the 1260, it is a different animal, and I'm telling you, this thing goes toe-to-toe with any of those bikes, I promise you. One of the differences between the 1200 Multistrada and the 1260 is that the suspension was lowered to 185 millimeters. The saddle was actually brought down 10 millimeters, so this got a little bit of a reduction in that way, and it made it so that the center of gravity is a lot better on this bike. It's got a different motor. It's got the motor that the Diavel actually has. This motor is the Testoretta motor. It's the motor that is in the Ducati Diavel, which is a power cruiser. I had one of those bikes for a Poison tour, and it was amazing. I mean, it just snaps your head back. I mean, that bike is incredible. This motor is amazing. The motor's tuned and geared a little bit differently, but it is the same motor that is in the Ducati Diavel. Ducati's done an amazing job with this motorcycle. It definitely competes with the BMW GS. It competes with the Honda Africa Twin. It competes with the Tenere. All those bikes in that category, the KTM 1290 or 1190 adventure bikes. And I've ridden all those bikes, and I've got to say that this bike is superior to those bikes, at least for me. And I know I'm going to anger a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to go, oh, come on, if you're off-roading in Peru and you break down, you can't find parts for it, and you can for a Honda. Okay, I'm not going to be off-roading on this bike in Peru. I don't even want to talk about that. The main thing is that it's got all the essentials that I need to do what I need to do, and I love this frickin' motor. So the thing that's interesting about this bike are the riding modes. There are other bikes that have different riding modes, but I was thinking when I was driving here, okay, what are some of the differences between this bike and other bikes and other adventure bikes, as a matter of fact? We're not comparing this to, say, my Indian Roadmaster. My Indian Roadmaster or my Bobber are two completely different animals. Okay, so one of the things that is pretty cool about this is that Touratech, which is a well-known aftermarket company for touring and enduro and adventure motorcycles, they made this specially for Ducati for this model. This is just a rack that holds the panniers, and I'm going to show you what they are. Panniers are luggage, basically. To me, I don't really like riding around with luggage on there, but if you're really out and about, you're going to have luggage. I mean, if you're really doing anything cross-country or even a weekend, you're going to have stuff with you. If you're going camping, you're going to have a tent, you're going to have a sleeping bag, you're going to have stuff. In my case, if I'm doing legend tripping, I need my camera gear, plus all that stuff. And sometimes if I'm just doing a day trip, I need my camera gear. I'm going to put these saddle bags on here. I think they're a wonderful setup, but they're a little bit too big. So I'm going to look into getting ones that are slightly smaller, and I'm gonna get them in black. I wanna do black, tan, and red on this bike. That's what I'm going for. So let me show you how they go on. This side is slightly indented right here because of the exhaust right here. And that's why that's set up that way. Most bikes today are really good. There are very few exceptions. It just is what suits you. And I am, like I said, this bike to me, it checks a lot of the boxes, but it just flat out excites me. It's just one of those kind of bikes that gets my blood pumping, and it's exciting. Again, you know, I loved my Africa Twin. At the end of the day, it's just the Italian styling of this bike just really won me over. Right now, I'm set up not that far from where I did the What the Hell Happened Here video, which I'll have a link to right here if you want to check that out. You know, one time a police officer said that if all the dead bodies that were buried in the Angeles forest and these areas all stood up, it would look like Dodger Stadium on a sold-out night. So I hope I was somewhat informative about this bike. There's a lot to know about it, and I'm going to be learning a lot as time goes on. But hopefully you got something out of it, even if you're not into motorcycles. Take care of each other and keep rock alive.